Life of Prophet Muhammad. The next morning, all the leaders of the tribes gathered at the agreed location, and by the will of Allah, the first person to enter was none other than the Prophet Muhammad. When the people saw him, they cried out, "This is the trustworthy one. We are pleased with him. This is Muhammad." Consider this, the honor and dignity that each tribe had been vying for, even going so far as to swear blood oaths and prepare for violence, was now peacefully entrusted to the Prophet. When the matter was presented to him, the Prophet removed his cloak from his shoulder and, with his own hands, placed the black stone in its rightful place. He then instructed that representatives from the 4 major clans be chosen to lift the cloth, and each representative took a corner of the cloth. Together, they carried it to the point where the stone was to be placed. When they reached the designated spot, the Prophet lifted the black stone and installed it in its place. This act symbolized that the final and most significant piece of the Kaaba would be placed by the hands of the Prophet. The elderly and experienced leaders of the Quraysh were astounded by his wisdom, decisiveness, and impartiality. All of them, in unison, praised and congratulated him. The age of ignorance and the Prophet's practices. After the construction of the Kaaba, the idol-worshipping people of Mecca began decorating it. They painted various images on the walls of the Kaaba, including depictions of angels and various prophets, such as Prophet Ibrahim and Prophet Ismail, alayhi salam, who were shown casting arrows for divination. They also created images of Lady Maryam, alayha salam, and Prophet Isa, alayhi salam. Additionally, 360 idols were placed around the Kaaba, each representing different tribes, turning the Kaaba into a multi-religious temple. The hedonism of the Banu Jurhum tribe was also highlighted, with even the criminals of the Kaaba being deified. One example is Naila bint Daik, a beautiful woman who would display her beauty in semi-naked clothing while performing the tawaf around the Kaaba. She had a following of admirers, including a young chief named Asaf bin Bagia, who once became so infatuated during the tawaf that he overstepped his bounds. The Banu Jurhum people, drunk and heedless, did not protest this desecration, but instead proudly narrated the story of Asaf and Naila's love. After their deaths, idols of Asaf and Naila were made and worshipped as symbols of love and affection, and they were placed near the Zamzam well. The Prophet, witnessing the degradation of his people, would become deeply saddened and distressed. To avoid their actions, he would often retreat to the outskirts of Mecca to spend time in solitude. There were a few other individuals with sound minds who also disapproved of these practices, and they would keep the Prophet company. Among them was Abu Bakr, R.A., who was 2 years younger than the Prophet and shared his concern for the moral decline of their people. After the Prophet's mission began, Abu Bakr, R.A., was the first to embrace Islam. Similarly, Hakim bin Hizam, the nephew of Lady Khadija, was also an honorable person in Mecca, 5 years older than the Prophet. He shared a natural harmony with the Prophet and later accepted Islam after the conquest of Mecca. Another friend of the Prophet, Zumayd bin Thalaba, a physician and surgeon, came to the Prophet after the Quraysh had labeled him a madman. He inquired about the Prophet's condition, and upon hearing a few verses from the Quran, he embraced Islam. Other notable companions who despised idol worship included Su'aib bin Sinan, R.A., Ammar bin Yasser, R.A., and several others, such as Uthman bin Affan, R.A., Zubair bin Awam, R.A., Abdul Rahman bin Awaf, Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas, Jafar bin Abi Talib, Ubaydullah bin Yash, and Abu Salma, R.A. Even outside Mecca, Abu Dar of Banu Ghaffar was like-minded, as was Salman al-Farsi, R.A., who traveled from Persia in search of the truth and eventually embraced Islam after meeting the Prophet. Although the Kaaba had become a place for 360 idols, the Prophet never bowed to these idols nor participated in any of the other pagan rituals. The Quraysh, considering themselves superior, had a rule that during the pilgrimage, it was not obligatory for the Quraysh to go to Arafat. Those coming from outside had to adopt the Quraysh's clothing, or they would have to perform tawaf around the Kaaba in the nude. As a result, tawaf in the nude became a common practice, but the Prophet never participated in such customs. In the era of ignorance, storytelling was a popular pastime. At night, people would gather in a place after finishing their daily work, and a storyteller, skilled in this art, would begin his narrative. People would eagerly listen to these stories throughout the night. Once, when the Prophet was a child, he wanted to join one of these gatherings. However, there was a wedding celebration along the way, and as he stopped to observe, he fell asleep. When he awoke, it was already morning. This was the only time, in his entire life, that he had any inclination towards these gatherings. His natural inclination always kept him above such distractions.